80% of my closet is shirts that I am holding on to for no reason because they will never fit on my body again.
I don't know how to explain. There's not the shirts that I love and shirts that I hate part of a woman's closet. That's not a thing.
It's shirts I like today and shirts I hate today.
You just kind of pick the same ones. I don't know. There's the ones that hide in the back.
There's a section in the back that you flip through when you are on high alert.
Yeah.
And they're back there for a reason.
Okay.
Whether it's, I don't want to give this away. I did wear this in the last 2 years.
Right.
Someone said one day, this color looks good on me, but it shows my belly when I stretch. And that section of clothes you fly through when you have dirty clothes or you just got a big grease stain on your favorite shirt. Uh-oh.
Somebody's calling. Somebody wants to be on the podcast.
We
haven't really started. It's fine.
Someone doesn't know this should be on silent.
Okay, well, that may be our cue to get started. You just want to go.
The fact that we're now accepting phone calls on the show, that's our
live callers. Like,
okay,
call
cool.
in. It's still vibrating. You know how to decline a call? Or are you afraid that you're going to hurt that person's feeling?
I'm still afraid I'm going to hurt their feelings.
Okay. Well,
I don't know that I know how to do it successfully.
It's going away now.
Okay.
It'll be going away here soon.
Then we can get started. Hello, and welcome to the Almost Amazing podcast from the City Rise Network. Hosted by Jennifer Dennis and produced by me, Justin Kello. We're a podcast that was supposed to be focused on parenting, but we've kind of lost the plot along the way. Honestly, we don't know what this podcast is about, but we talk to incredible people who love Jesus, and our hope is to provide encouragement and fun whenever possible. If our lack of clear direction bothers you, we apologize, but no one is making you listen to this podcast, unless you're married to Jennifer. Andy, thanks for listening.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Almost Amazing podcast. Today, we're working on our podcast being more soothing.
Wow. Oh, sorry. Wow.
I'm going for a more soothing voice today.
Is low soothing and high is not?
Soothing content.
Okay. I mean, have you seen that there's a thing on TikTok where they're saying release all your breath and then try and yell or something? So you go, and you release all of the breath in your lungs, and then it's like try as hard as you can yell, and the sounds that people are making are unnatural. Trying, you know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
I haven't done it yet, and I'm not going to do it on this podcast for you, but that's what it reminds me of, is like trying to.
I will say I have a little bit of a cough, and my microphone has just quit. Like my microphone's like, I'm done.
You're tightening the wrong thing. Pull it back up.
Of course I'm tightening the wrong thing. Okay. So if you want to talk about weird places to end up in TikTok, because my team and I end up on this, we have these discussions about places where our TikToks have led us.
Yeah.
And lately I have found these TikToks that are of people who, like this Asian family who seem really wonderful, but they are setting up camp in the rain. Oh. And it's a soothing video of people setting up camp in heavy rain.
And they make multiple videos like this? Or they've only
multiple videos.
That's their thing.
Where they are going somewhere to camp. It's in the rain. Mm-hmm. It is, I can't.
You had it. You had it. I do want someone in science world to tell us what's going on in Houston, because everybody has this. Everybody has it. My wife has had it for 2 or 3 weeks. She had something, just a sore throat. She could not, like, I need someone to tell us what's going on.
Well, I will say that it is not COVID, it is not flu, and it is not strep.
It's new COVID.
Because
okay,
like
that's what we didn't know what COVID was when it first came out.
When you go get tested, they test you for all of it, and you know it's not those. But I will say, okay, so I'm going to get back to these TikToks that I've been watching of an Asian family setting up an outdoor tent in rain. Yeah. In rain. And Justin, it is the most soothing thing to watch people meticulously set up this really amazing camp. Yeah. And you watch them and they're in the rain and you hear the rain. Yeah. And they're also doing something really active that's soothing. Yeah. And you can hear all of it. It like puts me to sleep. It's wild content. Yeah. Anyway, I was trying to tell my team when they were stressed out, like they should watch this camp setup. But now I want to go camping in the rain.
Well, you recently tried camping not in the rain and you gave up and went home.
That I camped for 3 hours. That's a pretty low bar next time to go camping. It's a pretty low bar for the next time. But I will say this. Yes, I am recovering from some sort of a mystery virus illness. I did go to the Doc in the Box or whatever, one of those clinics, clinic.
Yeah, yeah.
And for the first time ever, have you ever gotten some sort of like steroid shot?
No.
Well, I've never done that. And people will say, oh, I just went and got a steroid shot. And they'll just say it like no big deal.
And it just like helps you power through.
Let me say, I went from feeling like I was probably needing to go to the ER. I felt terrible.
Uh-huh.
They gave me a shot and they give it to you in your back hip, AKA rear end. And in about 30 minutes, I was collecting supplies at Lowe's to paint my house.
Wow.
It was insane.
Yeah.
It like takes away all of any sort of like puffiness or like inflammation.
Yes.
It takes away inflammation. There was a mild in the back of my throat. Like the only thing that was left, a little bit of throat itch.
Yeah.
I took some Tylenol and for real, like for the next 48 hours, I only slept 2 hours.
Yeah. Great.
I cleaned. I think I wrote 2 books.
Yep.
I probably like watched a few TikToks, 7 movies. I scrubbed all of the floors.
Perfect.
All of our shoes.
Then why can't we so these are like the same steroids people use to like pump up their muscles?
I get it now. I get it why people are, I get it why all of these athletes take a little shot.
I do know they use it for like actors and stuff when they're like filming a movie or TV show and it's like, we just got to power through this. Like we don't have time for you to be sick. I do know they use it for that.
I will say that if it's like your wedding day.
Yeah.
Or someone was telling me they had a steroid shot on their wedding day.
Wow.
And you need to power through something.
Yeah.
Find that shot.
Yeah.
And then about 2 days later, something hits you.
And you're just,
and I will say,
done.
Now I understand where the phrase roid rage comes from. Because it went from, I can tackle the world to, this thing's a disaster. It's all on fire. And I'm like weepy and crying.
Wow.
So there is a backside. So if you're going to get the shot on your wedding day, please realize that there will be a day on your honeymoon.
The honeymoon will be rough.
That will not be ideal.
But yes, it's not something you should lean on, but it is a miracle thing that can help you power through.
It was so wild.
Yeah. I've never had one. I've never been that sick before to need it. I guess I've never had that.
Look at you.
No, here's what it is. I've never had something that important enough that I've needed to go to where I needed to like power through.
Where you just had to get through it. Well, I did stay away from people because I didn't want to infect anybody else.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's going around Houston and I need a scientist to tell us what's happening because I'm like, this feels off.
Well, I will say this is our weather comment today because we are a weather podcast now.
On the side.
It's gotten hot pretty fast.
Yeah.
Let me just say there's been this weird noise in the back of my car that I didn't know what it was. If it was like my brakes were weird.
Yeah.
I had left. Oh, and I hope Andy doesn't listen to this far in the show. I had left an HEB, some caffeine-free diet, like a canned Cokes in the back.
Clunking around.
The noise I was hearing was them individually exploding. Like popping to the extent of the aluminum and then exploding.
Yeah.
And I didn't recognize that as anything other than maybe my tire was off.
Oh, okay, great.
And yeah. And then I finally started to smell something weird, like a mildew. And I go, that's so weird. Nothing's wet in my car. And I open the trunk and it looks like a Coke massacre.
Yeah.
And the cardboard's all blown apart. So this is why I'm going to have to explain to Andy that we are out of soda again.
Already.
Because it's already ignited because it's already this hot in May, Justin.
It is hot. I mean, it is hot. But we did get a little bit of a rain came through, cooled off a little bit. But yes, but at least you're sick now and not sick the week of VBS.
Amen.
It's like, get it over now and then you can do all your summer stuff and be good to go.
So that's our health content and our weather content.
Crime content. What about crime?
Why don't you knock out crime?
Okay, so there was that pastor's wife. You saw it on TikTok?
Yes.
Such a sad story. But there's so many like conspiracy theories around this. I think people are just making stuff up just because they're hungry for conspiracy.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Because we all know what's happening with Kate now. People have a lot of free time on their hands.
Yeah.
Kate Middleton.
Yeah. All that to say, we're not a crime podcast. We don't have any conspiracy
but
theories.
But I do think we can cover crime a little bit.
Okay, maybe a little bit more.
Just to expand the interest.
Just like news, crime, weather,
we're doing
lifestyle,
crime, weather,
health, all those things, like a real news
And then
show.
Our big bang and the most important thing is what people are doing in the name of Jesus Christ to help redeem this crazy world, to help bring people to know the Lord. And today is one of those shows. And that's why I'm so excited about our guest today. All right. When you say that you're bringing on a guest that you've known for like 15 years, you're thinking person our age. No, today I have known this person, I think for about 15 years.
Wow.
And she is wonderful. And she's here to talk about her incredible ministry, welcome Meg Baumgarten. And she is with Lifehouse Ministries, and she's here to tell us about that. Welcome, Meg.
Thanks, guys, for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. How do you know Meg? So we were talking about this a little bit before we started recording.
So
what is the history?
Believe it or not, she wasn't in one of my small groups.
Okay.
Meg was part of the youth group when the first thing I did for this ministry of this church of how I came to be at City Rise was that I spoke one weekend at a retreat for the youth.
Wow.
I was attending another church. I didn't even come here.
This was before you went to this church. I didn't know that.
This was before everything.
Wow.
I show up at the beach in Galveston at one of my closest friends' house. She was hosting, Amy Pickett.
Okay.
And Meg was one of the students there. And I spoke a couple of times that weekend, and it was a really cool, like a Mardi Gras theme.
Wow.
And they were wonderful. And Meg was one of my favorite humans that weekend. Wow. I thought she was so cool. And so we continued to get to know each other, and I became good friends with her mom and her mom's group of friends. And so Meg might have been one of the very first people I knew at City Rise.
That's incredible. Before City Rise was even City Rise.
I know.
Like way back in the day.
And Meg's whole goal in life, she has said it many times, I just want to be like Jennifer Dennis.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. Meg, welcome. Thank you for coming. This is just such a treat. Now, Meg, were you in Justin's?
I was not.
So you're a little bit more old school than Justin.
Yeah. So when I was student pastor, Meg was in college already, but she was one of those like legacy youth group members that like everybody knew and talked about and suggested for things. It's like, oh, y'all need a chaperone? Get Meg. She's awesome. Or, oh, y'all need a girls group leader for the summer? Oh yeah, get Meg. Like, she's great. Like Meg was, I knew Meg's name far before I ever saw her in person because she was one of those that's like, she grew up in the youth group. She's awesome. She loved Jesus.
How many times were you asked to do some sort of a camp, internship?
Oh, guys, I did a lot of stuff with the youth, even when I was in college, far beyond my high school years. And I actually remember driving home from for a D-Now weekend, which was called something else.
Yeah, winter retreat or wild and crazy or something.
And I got pulled over on my way home because I was late to get there. I was on my way back from Waco, and I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm like just trying to get to my church, and they're like, what are you talking about? It's a Friday night. I'm like, I'm late, but I have got to be there. And but I came back, I think, for a lot of D-Nows. Yep. I definitely went to what's that thing called in Florida?
Big Stuff.
I'm sure you were a chaperone a couple times. As a chaperone.
Yep.
And then spent a lot of time just on the weekends, like popping
I got pulled over coming on my way to a D-Now.
Really?
Yes, it was in Louisiana, and I not only did I get pulled over, I had my suitcases in the back seat, which this officer could not wrap his head around. And to him, that meant I was definitely transporting something illegal. Yes. He completely pulled my whole car out onto the street.
Oh my God.
Because he was like, why are these suitcases in the back seat? And I'm like, look at my trunk. It's still prepared for Y2K. Yeah. He's like, what's all this water doing back here? What are you using this water for? And I'm like, it's Y2K. He's like, he goes, that's 4 years ago. I'm like, please let me go. I'm going to a church event. He's like, church event?
Wow.
But yes, I know. I'm like, I'm going to be late. Yeah. Same thing.
Wow.
But I was arrested. So I'm just kidding. So now I love, like, what were some of the things like that? Oh, and you're not even going to cut this out, are you?
Probably not.
Oh my goodness. This podcast is definitely going downhill.
It's raw. It's real. Meg's about to bring it back up because she's got incredible things to say.
Tell us about some of your
favorite memories of growing up in this church. Yeah.
Yes.
Favorite memories. Y'all, I have a lot. I was actually talking to somebody the other day about community, and I was talking about how hard it is to find new community as an adult. And they were like, but I had such great community in college, and I had such great community in high school. And I'm like, yeah, because everybody wants to invest in the college and high school and middle school kiddos. Like that is like such a prime part of your life. And I think that was such a big part of like really all of my memories and all of my moments that I have that I look back with like such gratitude, is that the youth group here at WestU and Crosspoint at the time was family to me. And like it built and set the stage for what it looked like for community later on in my life. Like there was every single community group that I've stepped into since I've been here has been a total comparison to what I had. And so I think Wednesday nights, like Jennifer Dean was one of my leaders for years. And I actually
very cool small group leader, by the way. Like
Oh,
that's
I know,
an incredible,
right?
that's an incredible pull right there.
She's
That's great.
so awesome. But she was one of our small group leaders for years. So obviously she watched us grow up in a sense, but she also like on the side discipled me really hard during high school. And we met where Leaf and Grain is now used to be in Einstein Bagels.
I remember that.
Jennifer and I used to meet in the mornings at Einstein Bagels or at the Chick-fil-A that's over in Meyerland.
Nice.
And we would read the Bible together. And it was just sweet. And I think that those are definitely like every memory I have involves somebody in that community group, Wednesday nights, summers, or summer interns, whatever it was. Those are just some really sweet moments that I had here.
So now you're married and you have a beautiful daughter, and now you have a career that is also like leading people in a meaningful way. Tell us about Lifehouse Ministries.
Yeah, so we are a nonprofit ministry supporting women in unplanned pregnancies. We're a housing ministry. So we have been in operation in the city of Houston for 35 years, which is amazing. We have been down by Hobby Airport for a long time. And recently, in the last couple of years, we have just been seeing that has become a hard place for our women to find jobs and transportation. And we really were kind of at max capacity with the homes that we were running down there. And so we were like, Lord, we know you've got something different for us. And what does that look like as a ministry? And over the last year, we decided that we were going to figure out a way to get into the city. And it probably looked like an apartment complex. And I am so excited to say that we are closing on an apartment complex next week.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah, we're super excited. And so we'll start and taking women later this summer. And yeah, we're just super excited for this next season and what it looks like. It's been a sweet 35 years, and we just know that what the Lord has next is going to be even greater.
So what's the process for a new mom coming into your ministry?
So they usually hear about us word of mouth. Also, if you go on Google and you're typing in like Pregnant Help Houston, Lifehouse pops up as one of the searches, and they can apply online. Our phone number is also listed, and they can call in there. But once they run through the acceptance process, they'll start their intake, which they come to live at Lifehouse. So they, in our new apartment model, will actually receive an apartment of their own for them to live in. It will be fully furnished. All of the utilities and bills will be taken care of. And from there, they'll start and jump right into the program. So they'll move in with us, and they'll be able to participate in classes that are involved in our program. And obviously, we have a heavy amount of volunteers that help lead that, whether it be maternity classes, resume building, then also just a Bible study, learning what it looks like to, take care of your family in your home. So we've got a lot of volunteers around helping with like making freezer meals to keep in your freezer, and just preparing really for baby to come.
So your degree is in teaching education, correct? Mm-hmm. So can you talk a little bit about the path you took from college to what you're doing now?
Yeah. So first of all, I feel like this actually kind of starts in high school.
Oh, wow. Start there then. Yes, please.
I know my mom will be listening and she'll probably laugh at this, but I told my mom in high school at one point that I was going to apply. There used to be a summer internship at Agape Development, and I was going to apply and go live there. And she was like, no, you are not going to do that by yourself as a high schooler. And she was like, you're going to college. And I'm like, okay. And so I always thought at some point I would end up in ministry, and I didn't really know what that looks like at the time. I went to Latvia a lot of different summers throughout my high school years with Chuck Oak and the rest of the youth group, and really loved my time there. And then went on the Ecuador trip as a senior in high school and really loved that time. And then I went to college, and I was like, oh, well, I love working with kids, and I know that. And I guess that can kind of be my mission field. And so I jumped right into education, which was great. Don't get me wrong. I loved it. I was there and went through education all 4 years at Baylor, and then came home, taught in education for 3 years. And then in the middle of those 3 years, COVID hit. And it was not the education world that I had thought. And I had kids on Zoom. I had a lot of kids on iPads. And I just wasn't loving it. And I was newly married, and I was like, I don't know if I should be making a career switch, but I don't feel like where I'm at is right. And I feel like the Lord's calling me to something different. And so I really just started praying about, what does that look like? Like, I don't really know what my skills are. I'm just a teacher. And my mother-in-law was like, no. Like, teachers have wonderful skills, not just, to teach children.
Right.
And so she kind of like called out all of these different skills that I had. And I was like, but really and truly, I don't want to like just use my skills in an office and like sit around and, organize something or do admin work somewhere. And she was like, you would be so good as an executive assistant. And I'm like, that sounds great, but I don't want to work downtown. Like, in my mind, I think of like this formal person that works for some big company. And she was like, I think you could do that somewhere else. Like, there's got to be a church or a nonprofit or something that you could work for. And so I kept praying about it, and I was like, maybe. And this job opened up at Lifehouse. And so I applied. And I laughed because I was like, I always wanted to be in ministry, but I didn't really ever know what that looked like. And now here I am. I get to use my gifts. I love to keep things organized. I love the weird paperwork that nobody else does. I love logistics. And it's so fun for me to get to serve in that way. But also on the other side, like, I can take my lunch break and go sit with a woman and talk to her about what she's going through right now, which is hard. Like, our women have hard stories. And at the end of the day, like, getting to sit there and eventually in this conversation, as I get to know her, point her to Jesus is like the best part of my job. So
how'd you hear about Lifehouse? What's your connection there?
So my in-laws have been involved with Lifehouse for over 30 years.
Oh, wow.
In the old model, down by Hobby, we used to have house parents. And my mother-in-law had heard about the ministry for a little while. And then all of a sudden they were looking for house parents. And she was like, looked at her husband, was like, let's take a leap of faith and go do it. And he was like, okay. And for whatever reason, he said yes. And they moved their whole family to Lifehouse. My husband was 2 at the time. And she, I think, had a 6-month-old at the time when they moved in, and then a 4-year-old. And so they lived there on site, took care of the women, lived in the house with the women, and really just discipled them well, taught them life skills, took them to church, did their day-to-day, and parented-ish, because they were house parents, through their time at Lifehouse until they delivered their baby. And so my mother-in-law has actually still been involved to this day. She's served in every capacity you could think of at Lifehouse, and is now on the board. But she heard about this position. She was like, I'm staying out of it, but you should apply.
Yeah.
And it ended up just being perfect timing for me to finish my school year and jump right into it. So,
okay, so we've got people listening, and I'm being very serious about this. They would look at you as a grown up and be like, if my kid could be Meg when they grow up, like, that would be a win. And I'm very serious about that. I've seen 1,000 teenagers come through youth ministry. So, you know what I'm saying? So, like, to see someone who is passionate about their faith, who wants to serve their community, who is actively involved in their church and loves Jesus, like, what would you say are some things that maybe your parents did, or some things they positioned you in early on? And a lot of it's just the way God has wired your heart. So it's not all, but what did your parents do, or what keystones in your childhood and in adolescence helped you get to where you are now? I mean, you talked about the community, you talked about the discipleship with Jennifer Dean. Like, what were those things that maybe your parents did or others did to like get you to where you are now?
Yeah, I think, so I started at WestU when I was like baby in the nursery. So I, grew up around church. And I think, like, you think about the parents that are like, no, we're going every Sunday. Like, no, really. My mom was like, we're going every Sunday. And my parents were divorced. and they got divorced when I was 3 years old. And so my mom was like really adamant about, you're going to church, and when you're with me, we are at church. And it even became a routine that like when I was with my dad, I wanted to be at church as well. And he was not attending here. But once I got old enough, like he was dropping me off here for, the weekend events and things like that. And I think realizing that like it's a priority for your family, and understanding really what that looks like to make it a priority, not just this like task of like, we have to go to church and it has to be this and it has to be that. Like your kids can have a blast here. Like I think about my childhood at VBS, and then I did VBX wasn't around when I was a kid, but I served at VBX and VBS, and like I just jumped in where it was needed. But I also saw my mom doing that. Like my mom jumped in where it was needed. And she was a teacher, so her summers were a little bit more free to be able to serve with the youth. But I think just having her as an example of what it looked like to volunteer and really plug into your church community allowed me to also see what that looked like. And then again, just my community, like I cannot tell you enough how important my friendships were while I was here. Like the fact that I remember like my whole childhood here at WestU was kind of with the same 5 kids, like following each other through all of these Sunday school classes until we graduated. That's
wonderful. That's like, so good.
It's just crazy. It's crazy that I was able to live my like majority of my childhood with the same group of people. And one of my very best friends ever, Erin Wilson, I'm going to be in her wedding in November. And the only reason I know her is because we went to church together. And so she and I both just really committed, like on our days off school. Like I remember there was a MLK Day or Columbus Day or something random, and school was closed, but the church was open, and we came up and like organized all the cabinets in the youth room at Crosspoint. Like we spent all of our free time here, just having this willingness to serve. And I think that it just came with the fact that like our families were ready to jump in and serve too.
It's really encouraging to me to hear you say that as a child of divorce, I got your cough.
Oh dear.
No, I'm good. It's really encouraging to me because my parents got divorced when I was 2. And so that was actually a barrier for me being involved in youth group growing up because I was a halftime kid. And so I really felt like an outsider because I couldn't be there every week. And so it's encouraging for me to hear you say like that wasn't a deal breaker, or that didn't stop this kind of community from being built. So I love to hear that because I know that there's other people who maybe have blended families that maybe their kids aren't with them every weekend. Like you can still be as involved as possible with those kids to help them have that community when they're here with you, because it is hard. It's hard to have 2 homes and to have, 2 lives and 2 closets. And, it's kind of hard for a kid. And I love that you found stability here is what it sounds like. It's really encouraging.
It's really encouraging. And I've loved hearing your story today and everything that's happening. And I know that if people that are listening are just really moved by this ministry, how can they get involved?
So right now, I think I mentioned we're like waiting to intake until we close on these apartments. We've been in a little bit of a season of pause. We are gearing up for all those classes that I mentioned. There's a lot more than the ones that I've mentioned, but and we need volunteers to get us to get these apartments ready. We're going to be building furniture. We're going to be moving furniture. We've got storage units of furniture that are ready to move in as soon as our units are ready. And then after that, because we're in the city now, we get to have dinners with our church partners. If there's a community group or a Sunday school that wanted to adopt a Tuesday night or something like that to bring, a dinner and dessert or whatever it is. And we would love that. And so I think that volunteering, and then obviously give your time, give your resources. And I mean, really, we're purchasing a pretty big apartment complex. And so if you have the money to do so, we would greatly appreciate it as well. So
what's the website they would go to?
www.lifehousehouston.org. Oh, no. Yes.
You forget about that?
Yes. www. www.lifehousehouston.org.
Yeah, or just Google it. I'm sure you'll find it. Or you'll find the band that I love, but Houston, and I'm sure you'll go to the right spot. Yeah, that's great. I saw. So your supervisor, or I guess what is she? The executive director?
Yeah, executive director.
She spoke at our luncheon last week, and then Meg came in like a celebrity because everyone knows Meg in our church.
That's true.
I'm sure your executive director was like, okay, like, but she gave this incredible presentation, and I thought, wow, I want to hear from one of our church family members about this, and so I wanted to bring her on. So I'm glad you came.
Thank you so much. So we end our show with the final question, and today the final question is: if you look through your past, and it has to be somebody you knew personally in your past and all your life, if you could, let's stick with people who are still living. If you could spend a day with them, like hunt them up and spend an entire day with someone from your life, of someone that you've known, maybe you've lost contact with them. Maybe they have a restraining order against you.
Sure.
If there's someone in your life that you've lost contact with and you're like, man, if I could just spend the day with them again, I would.
And
who would that be?
We'll answer this first. You can think about it a little bit.
We will answer that first.
For ourselves. Well, for you, this is who Meg would spend a day with. Meg would probably not. We answer for ourselves. We answer for ourselves.
Meg.
I think this is a great question. And I think for me, it is probably centered around someone from college, because like you mentioned, like there's such strong community in high school and college that like then you go your separate ways, and it's like, gosh, I never see this person anymore because we live on this side of the country. And so for me, one of my dearest friends from college is named Charlie. He lives in New York City, and it's just like we don't get to see, like I don't get a day with him, just me and him to hang out, and I miss him a great deal. We still text or whatever, but like you can't just like drop everything and go hang out. Like if you lived even in Texas, like even if you lived in Austin, like he's not close at all. But he was a huge part of my college time, and we hung out all the time in college. And then it's like college is over and you go your separate ways, and it's like, wow, that relationship was really important to me, but it's no longer can be at the same level. And so I would definitely spend a day with him.
Okay. So I've been thinking about this, and I too think when you're in college, you get this incredible investment in people that really is hard to replicate throughout the rest of your life. I think we spend a lot of time trying to do that. I had this one best guy friend. His name was Andre, and I adored this kid. We were such great friends. And when he graduated, and he taught for a while and then moved to the Middle East to teach school. And so he'll come back for the States, and I think he's up in North Carolina when he's here, or southern parts of whatever. And I never physically get to see him and spend time with him. It's been years.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be really cool to spend the day, go to the Middle East and spend the day watching Andre teach. Yeah. In Saudi Arabia.
Well, I like that you bring that up because a lot of my friends in college were female. And so once I got married, I felt this immediate, like, I can't have that relationship anymore. And so it would be cool to spend time with those ladies obviously in a safe way. But I had to kind of I feel like I had to shut those down. Which is a bummer.
It's a bummer, but it's true.
I understand it, but still, those were important people to me that were fully platonic. I had no interest in dating.
I remember when Andy and I were just first getting to know each other, and we were walking along the beach, and he looks at me and he goes, no matter, and this is, I don't even know if we liked each other or dated, but he goes, no matter who I'm married, they're going to have to understand that my best friend's a girl, and we hang out all the time, and we're going to stay best friends forever.
Yeah, how'd that
and
work
I remember
out?
Thinking, yeah, I know. Yeah, I know.
I'm sure she's still around, and maybe
he may choose her as one of the. I think he had these two amazing best friends out of college.
Yeah,
Jeff and Pam. I think he would still choose to spend the day with them. But I just remember looking at him thinking, yeah, that's going to be wildly unpopular.
That's not going to go well.
Meg, who would you dig up from the past?
Okay, I feel like I in my nostalgia of reminiscing on my time at West U, I think I have to pick one of our interns from the summer.
Wow.
I don't know if you'll remember Megan Gover.
No.
She is wonderful. But the summer that she was here, Rebe was also here. I don't know if you'll remember.
I remember Rebe.
I would pick probably one of the two of them, maybe both of them at the same time if I can. Yeah. But they just made that summer a blast. And yeah, I just love them. They both just exude the joy of Christ.
Amen.
And yeah.
That's cool. That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, Meg, thank you so much for being with us today. And please know that I'm not contagious with all of my coughing. And Justin's going to tell us a little bit more.
Yes. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with somebody. We'd love for you to send this to someone who might be interested in partnering with Lifehouse. It's a great ministry focused on helping young women who are basically at risk for choosing abortion. It's essentially who you're looking at. And so if you're passionate about, pro-life and those sorts of things, this is a real life organization in our city that's working to help bring babies into the world and train their moms in the faith and to support them to find jobs and get on their feet. Really incredible stuff. Check out the website. I'll link it. And then also send this to someone. And if you have anybody we can talk to, please email us at podcast@cityrise.org.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you guys. We hope you've had an almost amazing time on the Almost Amazing Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Almost Amazing Podcast from the City Rise Network based in Houston, Texas. City Rise is a partnership of church campuses, nonprofits, and missionaries devoted to lifting our city and the world by generously giving the gospel of Jesus Christ. For more information or to find a church campus close to you in the Houston area, visit cityrise.org.